fifth or sixth, I think it's my sixth Homegrown Stories about North Dakota. I have a very, very special guest. He's actually the person that brought me to North Dakota, and that is my dad. So welcome, Dad, also known as Lenz. But Dad, what is your real name, and why did you change your name to Hans when you came to America? So.
Well, in Germany, usually you call yourself by your middle name, and my middle name is Dieter, and it's spelled Dieter. So after a while, I changed it very quickly to Hans.
Okay. So anyway, so I just call him Dad, so that's what I'm going to refer him to. So you did grow up in Germany. So tell us what it was like growing up in Germany.
Well, I was born in 1937, and the first 10 years of my life was basically war. I lived close to in the suburb of a big industrial city, close to the French border, and of course that was a prime target for the bombing run, and it was almost completely destroyed. Fortunately, in our suburb, the damage was not quite as bad, but we still had to go to shelters, and the bombs were falling all around us. So it wasn't a very pleasant time.
No, and so that was Saarbrücken, right?
Yeah.
In the Alsace-Lorraine area. So you.
In the Saarland area.
Saarland.
Saarland.
So
as the Saarland is in France.
Okay. Sorry. Big mistake. So, but you actually lived in a basement for those 10 years. Is that right?
Well, in the basement, if we didn't have time to go to shelter, but if we had enough time warning for the bombing runs, we went to an old coal mine, which was about 15 minutes from our house.
Okay. So it was a coal region then where you were raised.
Coal and steel mills.
Right, right. And can you tell us the really interesting story? I remember when you came home with when Oma died, and you brought back her stuff. There was a nail, and we thought it was a horseshoe nail. We thought it was because you were involved in raising Icelandic horses. But can you tell us that story about that nail?
Well, actually, when the war was going on, sometimes we had to go to the east part of Germany, and we usually went in a big truck, and that particular horseshoe nail caused a flat tire on the truck, and we had to stop, change tires. Meanwhile, there was a bombing run, and the first trucks were destroyed by bombs. So.
Yep. So all because of that nail, you're here today, and I'm here today. So
Right.
I just think that's a neat story, for want of a nail. So you did leave home at 17. You left your home in Germany. I mean, you didn't come to America yet. Is that right? Around.
Well, I starting about 12 years old, I traveled all over Europe. Whenever there was vacation, I was gone either by bike or hitchhiking or whatever.
Yep.
So I've seen most of Europe, and I especially liked Scandinavia.
Okay.
That's
and why,
good.
yes. And why did you like Scandinavia so much?
I like cool temperatures.
Okay. So you grew up in Germany. Oma and Opa ran a grocery store, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how did you end up in America then?
Well, I graduated from middle school. Then I finished high school in evening classes. And meanwhile, I got an apprenticeship as an electrician. So I graduated. I'm a certified journeyman electrician.
Very good.
And after that, I went to college, graduated as an electrical engineer, and I worked for about 1.5 years in Germany on the design of experimental nuclear power reactors.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I could take some additional schooling, and I had a scholarship from a German company. And I started graduate classes at University of Cincinnati in nuclear engineering.
All right. Very good.
My plans at that time were still to go back to Europe and settle in Finland.
And settle in Finland. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So,
Didn't you, going back to Finland, didn't you end up in Russia in a weird way when you were up in Finland? Or
we don't want to talk about
that? Okay. So, so you're in Cincinnati, and you met my grandpa, Alfred Murphy. He's the one from North Dakota here. So, how did you meet Grandpa?
Through your mom.
Oh, I thought you met Grandpa first.
No.
Okay, so tell us how you met my mom, who is Sandy Murphy.
Actually, Sandy dated one of my friends in college, and I knew her. And then one time, 2 of my horses were killed in a fire in a barn in Germany, and I was really sad.
Yeah.
And I met your mom on campus, and I was really depressed. And we talked about it, and then that's when it started. I found out she liked horses. She had a property and relatives in North Dakota, and
so that's where the started.
That's where it started.
Okay, I thought that you had called her and she hung up on you, or you hung up on her, or something like that.
Well, we had an apartment, and she called one of my friends, the one she dated, and then she called, and he wasn't there, and I asked who's calling, and she said it's none of your business, and hung up.
And that's where it happened. For how long were you guys married? Like before Mom died? Like
53 years.
53 years ago. Okay, so it started with a funny phone call and horses. And so so then you met Grandpa. So tell us what you knew about Grandpa, Alfred Murphy.
Well, Grandpa and I clicked right away.
Right.
He is an engineer, and he was in the same business, so he had a very good, reasonable attitude, so we clicked.
Okay. Okay. And so did Grandpa ever talk about North Dakota much when you knew him? I mean, like in that period?
No, actually, your mom talked more about it.
Yeah, because Mom used to come and spend her summers up here, right?
Yes, right.
Okay. All right. So then eventually, so we have homesteaded land out here. So, but you came out to North Dakota even before on business. So tell me what that was like and why you came out here.
It was business. Really, I didn't think I didn't have any opinion if I liked North Dakota or not. We installed an engine generator in one of the ABM missile sites,
Okay.
which then were discontinued after the treaty. And then I was quite involved in the installation of the compression units on the Northwest Pipeline, which is running through North Dakota, gas pipeline through North Dakota to Chicago.
Okay. Where does that run in North Dakota? Is that north?
One of the compression stations is running right through Dunn County.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, one of the compressor stations is by Manning.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to go visit that when you come back home. So what year? So was that in the 80s or in the 70s?
The pipeline was probably in the late 70s or 80s. I'm
Okay.
not quite sure.
Okay. All right. So you were out here working with the pipeline and the gas compressors. So, and just so you know, so everybody knows, I knew my dad was an engineer, but you know, I always wondered why he didn't have his hat. Like I was thinking like a train engineer. That's all I can imagine. And when I would go to work with him, so sometimes I would go to work with him, or he'd show us stuff, and it was kind of boring to me. But we did something together in Venezuela. So you're in oil and gas, and I was down working in Venezuela on a disease called Huntington's disease, which is a genetic disorder. And we went there for a little bit together, but you were coming back and forth to Venezuela, and tell us what you did for your daughter, your
Well,
science daughter.
one of the universities did studies on Huntington's disease. And in order to do that correctly, they needed to have a sample, not just a sample, but the whole brain of the people who had the disease. So, and that brain had to be, could be on the road only for about 3 days or so. So I offered my services to take one or two of the brains to the States on my way home from business. So they packed the brains in ice in a cooler, and I got on the plane, and it was one of the small Venezuelan airlines.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the cooler on the seat beside of me, and the stewardess asked me, "Well, what's in the box?" And I said, "That's Jose and Marie." And she kind of looked at me, and I said, "It's just brains." That was it. She did not talk to me for the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
Then I got to customs in the US, and I had all the papers, the necessary papers, but I had to go through the agricultural line,
Mm-hmm.
customs line. So I went through there, and the guy said, "Well, I have to look at your samples." And he thought I had slides of brain and stuff. And I said, "Well, they're whole brains." "Oh, go right ahead."
So thank you for that gift to science, because that was really important. So anyway, so Dad's always doing kind of crazy stuff for his kids. So tell us about your other kids, or your siblings, my siblings.
Well, Mike lives in Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
and he is also an engineer. He has a lot of patents on wind turbines and machinery.
Mm-hmm.
And Heidi is a nurse supervisor in a hospital in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And my other daughter, Jenny, the youngest daughter, is a science teacher here in Lebanon, Ohio.
Right.
At my Ohio house.
Yep. So we're all pretty sciencey. So why do you think that was?
Well, I can remember one instance. One of you girls came home with a D in math.
That was Heidi, not me.
And whoever it was said, "Well, I'm just a girl." And I said, "Well, there are certain differences between boys and girls, but math is not one of them. You're grounded for 6 weeks."
Yeah, no, you were pretty tough on school. You were really, really tough on education. And why was that?
I think education is still very important.
Yeah.
I still do a lot of donations to educational enterprises. One of them is yours.
Yep.
And because it gives people a good starting base for their life.
Right. And what would you, when you came to America, well, you decided to stay in America, but there were some differences in the education system, I think, between Germany and America, or was it just you're working,
No, the vocational school in Germany is just a parallel path where you can go to college, certain degrees. And here, vocational school, at least here in Ohio, has a kind of a bad rep who can't hack it, for people, kids who cannot hack it in high school, they go to vocational school, and there's no really good path to college from there.
Mhm.
There is, but it's rather difficult.
Right. So the vocational trades in Germany were a little more elevated then, the
Oh
profession?
yeah. We
Yeah.
still had to go to school, and we had to go through practical experiences in different industries and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to change that.
I hope so.
I think it's changed. I think it's changed because the vocational schools are, well, that's a big part of North Dakota and part of, well, my platform. So, but we'll talk about that in a second. So then you and mom started to come out here. So tell us like what were your feelings and stuff when you started to come out here, and why did you and mom start coming out here together?
Well, the way it happened, we had to go to the Kilday area on some inheritance business. One of our uncles died, and I wanted to go see how the Murphy land looked like. And I got there, and people were very friendly. They
Yep.
showed me around, like people like Lenz, Seth, and
Yep.
he showed me around it. I still remember one spot where we went out to southeast of Watford City. He took me out of an overlook over the river. It was just beautiful.
Over the
But-
Badlands, yeah.
And then Goodall, he took me also to the Theodore Roosevelt National Park and had my first experience with the buffaloes. So that kind of, and when we got back, I told Sandy, well, I'm going to retire early and we're going to move to North Dakota.
Wow, good. And that's what you did, right?
And that's what we did. So originally we wanted to rehabilitate the old homestead down by Lake Ilo. And it was pretty nice and was doable. And I always had come in September. It was really nice. Then one year I went there in July or August, and my arm was covered in mosquitoes.
Yes. Yes.
So we decided to buy another quarter section close to the mountain, Mount Medicine, the Medicine Hole, Kilday Mountains, and we put a house there, and we got 50 head of cattle. We had 4 or 5 horses, so
Yep.
life was good.
Yeah, yeah.
And people are very friendly, very forthcoming. There's a big difference when you meet people here in Ohio. They ask you, "What are you doing for a living?" And you tell them. And when you come to North Dakota, they ask you, "Who are you related to?"
Yes. That's how they frame everything. Yeah, yeah. It helps. And the land that you bought, it was from our cousins, but it has a unique structure on there over, the Little Red Schoolhouse. Do you want to tell us about that?
Oh, yeah.
The Oakdale Schoolhouse.
There was a teacher who taught there and who still lived there at that time. She's dead now. Mrs. Devernock. She was a real good friend. She was telling me, and she told me, well, that old schoolhouse is really decaying. And I decided, well, we are not going to let the schoolhouse decay. So we put a new roof on it and put siding on it. And we are putting new windows on it right now. So one of my grandsons is doing. And well, it looks pretty nice right now.
All right, very good, yeah. And you hang a flag every 4th of July too, right?
4th of July, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day.
Very good. So thank you. It's very special. Okay, so so you moved out here, you retired here, and you go, but you still go back and forth to Ohio. And you are in Ohio right now, but you're coming back, even though.
Yeah, I got stuck in Ohio.
Right.
I was coming back from Europe, and I had to go for 2 weeks in quarantine, and then they started
Right.
closing state borders.
Yeah, right. So does North Dakota look a little bit like Finland or no?
No, not at all.
Okay. I was just
Finland is
wondering if like there was a,
Finland is wooded and big lakes and stuff like that, and North Dakota isn't.
no, it is not. It is not. Okay. So then you behind you over to your right, you have a picture of our brand. Do you want to talk a little bit about our brand, the CV?
Yeah, when my Sandy's grandfather, when they settled, they were one of the first settlers in that part of North Dakota. They ran horses for the American cavalry,
Okay.
and they had a brand, a cow brand on the left hip. It's a CV, and it's one of the oldest registered brands in North Dakota.
There you go.
And I caught it 2 weeks before it expired.
Thank you for that.
And you are a co-owner.
Yeah, and I'm a co-owner of one of the oldest brands in North Dakota. It's a C and a V.
Yeah.
So do you know much about, did Grandpa, or did you hear very many stories about great-grandpa, Joseph Murphy, the ones that actually settled here in Cecilia?
Well, he was born in Canada, and I think many Irish came that way because they had trouble getting through Ellis Island.
Mm.
So he worked for the railroad, and then he pioneered in around the Kildy area. Actually, there were two brothers.
Right.
He settled around what is now Lake Ilo, and the other brothers settled by the Kildy Mountains.
Right. And where did great grandma come from, Cecilia?
She came from Ireland.
Directly?
Directly, yeah, from Northwest Ireland. Beautiful country.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
that area is beautiful.
Okay. So tell us about Lake Ilo, because Lake Ilo wasn't there. Why did,
No,
yeah,
Lake Ilo was during that time. That was the depression, and that part of North Dakota needed water, for cattle and everything else. And they decided to build Lake Ilo. So your great grandmother was totally opposed to it, while her son Charlie was totally for it. So they leased part of the land of the lake, and they lost all that when the lake was filling up.
okay, yeah. And so then why did Grandpa left in the 30s? Can you tell us
Yeah.
what was going on and why he left and
Well, that was during the Depression, and he wanted to be an engineer, so he went to by train and hitchhiking to Ohio, and he got an engineering degree at University of Cincinnati.
and that's when he met Grandma?
I don't know where they met. I think they met in Michigan. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Yeah, but Grandpa, when Mom was born, she was born like what, November 27 or so, and then
26.
26. Yeah, sorry.
Close, but
And
no
then
cooking.
and then 10 days later, what happened? And
Well, he was stationed in San Diego. I don't remember the name of the base, but he was a colonel in the artillery, and he was sent to the war I think he went to New Guinea, and he was in the war there. And my dad was in the German Air Force, and he was in Germany.
yeah. Yeah. But Grandpa left like 10 days after Pearl Harbor happened like 10 days after Mom was born. Isn't that
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm going to ask you about Oma standing up to the police in the store. Can you tell us that story? So Oma means grandma in German. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my mom was pretty independent and
surprise, surprise.
yeah. Well, you try to raise my girls that way.
Yes, you did.
And of course, like you mentioned before, they had a grocery store. So one of the Nazi officers, he was not a soldier and he was not a policeman, but they felt a kind of powerful. So he came up with his polished boots and with uniform, came to the store and wanted privileges for certain people. And my mom really let him have it. He went out of the store with a tail between his legs. He never came back, and my mom never had any trouble.
There we go. Women standing up for what is right.
Yeah, I like independent women.
Yeah, yeah. No, you made sure that we were raised like that. We were, I mean, you can attest to this. We all knew that we were on our own once we were 18.
Right.
Yep. So, and there was we had to go to school, we had to go to college, and we had to pay for it ourselves. But
Oh, wait a minute. No, not quite.
that's true.
I paid quite a bit of it.
You did not.
I did.
Didn't pay for my school.
I did.
You did not.
All right.
Because I got the scholarships in chemistry. So
I know.
And I worked as a waitress and all that other stuff. So you paid for the first year. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. So thank you. Got us started. And you bought us a car so we could get to work. So you made it easy for us to work. So we appreciate that. So now, okay, where were we? So Grandpa left, like Pearl Harbor happened, and he didn't come back for the first 5 years of Mom's life, right?
Well, but like my dad came maybe back for 1 or 2 weeks a year, so I didn't really know him.
Right. Yeah. And then when Grandpa came back, he, well, I think like all men from the war, they just kind of broke him, but he didn't want any of his medals or anything like that.
I still got him.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Mom got him later, right? Like after he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's really interesting. So, okay. So now we're back in North Dakota. And where can we go? So you've been now here for how long?
Well, we moved to North Dakota in March of 2000. So
okay,
20 years.
Very good, very good. Yeah, and so
a newcomer in the Kildy area.
Right. So now, then I came here in 2007, and now I'm running for governor. We weren't a very political family. I mean, we're pretty much, all of us are independent, and we didn't talk politics or anything like that. We always were just, you know, education and being everything. So is there, what do you think about me running for governor of North Dakota now? Is it weird?
Well, when you told me first time, I thought you were joking.
Yep.
Well, my attitude to I think if we could get politicians who are realists and really work for the people, it would be great. Very few of them are.
Yep.
And,
but luckily, yeah.
And it's getting worse. And all the people I usually vote for, they usually don't make it because they're reasonable people.
Right.
And some of them who are do make it, like our previous senator, they don't get reelected. So because
politics are being divisive. But North Dakota is unique, and we have a unique political party that's all pro North Dakota, and we're going to run on that. And I think a veterinarian and a farmer are better representations, but this is not a campaign. So one last question, and then we'll end with one of my favorite songs from my childhood. And so what's your favorite thing about North Dakota?
Well, there are 3 or 4 favorite things.
Okay.
First of all, I like big empty spaces.
Yep.
I like the people. The people are very friendly, very honest, usually.
Yep.
And very helpful. You know, I didn't have any experience raising cows, so it's a lot of help getting them branded and calving and all that.
Yeah.
And then I just like the landscape. You know, I like to go out walking in the mountain and cross the pastures, and it's just beautiful.
Yep.
Then sometimes you meet a mountain lion, and sometimes you meet a coyote, and in the depth of winter, sometimes the wolves coming from Canada. So
great fun.
Great fun, yeah.
Okay, so we'll end it with one of my favorite songs from growing up. And you know which one it is. It's Hänschen, klien. Okay, just a few bars. Ready? Hänschen, klien, ging allein. You're supposed to sing that.
Oh, okay. In die weite Welt hinein, Stock und
Hut steht ihm gut in der weite. Aber Mama. So that's about, so tell them what that song is about. What does that translate?
Okay, that's little Hans. Me.
Little Hans, Hänschen, klien.
Going in the wide world with his hat on, his cane stick. And then his mom is crying because he's leaving. That's basically it. It's
fun kid story. Okay, Dad. Well, Dad's coming home in just a few weeks, and so we are bringing that precious cargo back. And thank you for doing Homegrown Stories, and thanks for being a great North Dakotan.
Yeah, I usually don't do Facebook, so.
That's okay. We'll send you the clip that you can send to all your friends. You can send it to Ulu and everybody back in Germany.
They'll follow it anyway.
Okay, Dad, you stay on for just a second, and Melissa will stop there.
Okay.